Okay, the New York Times building. I see Hussein Ali Khan from the Times is here. Close to, he's the project manager for this building. We're doing this with Renzo Piano, as I'm sure you all know. It's basically Renzo's vision, the whole concept of the veil on the outside, and we've had a very close collaboration in laying out the building, making it function, making it meet all of the owner requirements, as well as making it green. And it wasn't as though we were charged in the beginning to make this building green, but we're fortunate in that we have a very enlightened client who has seized a number of opportunities and now very much qualifies as a sustainable building that is going to move the technology forward. The plans you can see are not, the ground floor is actually 200 by 400. It's an 800-foot footprint, which the Times needed because they wanted to have their editorial floors all within 3 or 4 floors of the base. And then the tower is actually half owned by Forest City Ratner, who is the 50% partner on the project, and that is basically spec space. So we had to deal with 2 very different environments. One is an owner-user, and one is a speculator. And we can talk about that a little bit more. The base, one of the key things we've done there is we've made it a donut. We've brought natural light as deeply into the base as right down to grade. It's not a terrarium. It's actually an outdoor space with natural indigenous plants. We also have a skylight system over another light well that is automatically tuned to the sun. We'll open and shut as it needs to be. There are a number of major environmental moves here, but the most important is most of the focus has been on the interior environmental quality. And that's done with a number of things. We've got floor-to-ceiling glass, which you can see in the section on the left, to maximize the amount of light, natural light penetration, to make it as productive and comfortable an environment as possible on the inside. We've spaced the distance of the core to the wall so that light can penetrate fully. We've introduced the screening on the outside, which was Renzo's whole sense of materializing the building, at the same time providing a shading device which offsets the sun penetration when it is occurring. And then we've also introduced the underfloor air system, which is the first major building in New York to have underfloor air, and will be there's only, I think, 2 in Chicago now that have it, so it's very much advancing that art. If we took one of these tubes away, we would not be able to meet the energy code, and we would have to increase the tonnage in the interior of the building. That's how finely tuned it is. Finding the balance also between the owner-user and the developer. The developer was very concerned about this having a negative effect on the marketability of the project. We did a number of mock-ups where we were actually moving tubes around and showing how we could displace them in certain ways so that we minimize that effect. And once they actually saw it in place in the mock-up, they realized that it was really a beautiful thing, and they fully supported it. And so that's how it has evolved. Another thing that I think is important to talk about is a feature like this costs money. And we're not going to be able to convince many of our clients to go green if they know they're going to have to pay big premiums, or if some of these ideas are just unrealistic in terms of budgetary limitations. And what you see in the center slide is actually a mock-up that was built in Turin, and was what we really used as the basis for going forward with the design. We actually, you can see in the lower right, we tested the window washing, which is really high tech, basically taking a squeegee and running it behind the tubes. We had originally looked at robots and all sorts of gimmicks, which just didn't, in the end, didn't make sense for a number of reasons. And you can see the shot on the upper right where you can actually the experience from inside, and that's where we had a lot of discussion about how high the tubes should be, how low they should be, what the spacing should be, and so forth. But then beyond that, when we were prepared to bid the job, we were getting estimates, because this was new and different in the American mentality in the construction industry and suppliers is if we ain't done it before, we really got to cover ourselves. We were getting numbers like $230 a square foot, where the budget was $100 a square foot. So the owners, in their foresight, agreed that the best way we could deal with this was to pay a stipend to each of these 4 different curtain wall manufacturers, and have them engineer the mock-up similar to what you see in the middle, and actually extrude the materials, submit shop drawings, get our general approval, submit material, extrude materials and so forth, build a mock-up on their sites. We all went out to these 4 places to look at them. We commented. The manufacturers were able to understand what the shipping problems were going to be, what their manufacturing problems were going to be, and so forth. And then after that, we sent it out for bid, and bought the job under the budget. And it's really the kind of thing that requires, it did require that upfront investment from the ownership, but it was well worth it because they saved millions of dollars in return for having made that investment.
And it's a great example of how R&D factors into the green office. And you can't move all the levers of all the sustainable issues all at the same time as much as you'd like to. And sometimes for the benefit of either a pilot project again or an experiment, you have to push one lever pretty far. And in this case, we spent a lot of time and energy once we solved the basic core issues and making very rentable floor plates for the developers out there. We spent a lot of time working on this indoor environmental quality and the glass and how we were going to achieve a very transparent building. Maybe at the expense of some other things, but it's this type of innovation and pushing and leadership that will move all of us forward for the next project.
We'll talk a little bit about the mock-up in Queens, which, if you were here 2 weeks ago, was described in detail. But this is actually at the Times printing plant, where we built about a fifth of the area of a typical floor, which happened to have the same orientation as the actual building, and the same exposure to the sun and so forth. And used Benson was the manufacturer that got the job for the curtain wall, used their mock-up to actually not only simulate, but construct the curtain wall on the facade as well, which was yet another return for how we made that investment. Just quickly going over the interior, which was what makes this job really unique, is that it's not just interior space. Every aspect of this building is designed in terms of its quality, in terms of its environmental character, and it's just as a place to work, trying to make it as positive an experience as possible. And we're, of course, working with Gensler and many consultants who have made this happen. What you see here is a shot where the sun is penetrating late in the afternoon, and there was a 1 year or 6 months solstice analysis that was done under the guidance of Norris Berkeley Labs. You can see some instrumentation on the tables there. And it was, they measured all of the conditions where the light was coming in, whether it was too glary, whether it was too dark, and also analyzing what level people were comfortable looking at their computer screens and so forth, to the point where it was so refined. And they had various manufacturers with mock-ups, lighting and control and shading device mock-ups in this project, as well as different furniture systems, to the point where, again, they were able to refine it to such a point where they then wrote the specifications very precisely, and everybody had a comfort level, put it out to bid, came in under the budget. Not only under the budget for this dimmer controlled lighting, but also under the budget for the lighting period, with or without the dimmers, which is really quite remarkable.
Sometimes you get what you wish for, and everybody blames you for it. So, when you're asking the developers to spec a totally transparent building, they're very concerned about the office environment their potential tenants are going to have. And if it weren't for the Lawrence Berkeley Lab and their fine work, all of this research was done to disprove or to facilitate the development of new technologies that would make us be able to have glare-free work environments. That's the robot at the end there who's measuring the light bouncing off of a computer monitor.
This is the same shot late in the day, where you can see the shades have gone up. The ceramic tubing is in the right-hand portion. There's actually some fritting on the glass in the left-hand portion. And you can see the lights are all on. And this is a shot looking toward the interior, where you can see that Gensler and the Times have worked out this system where it was all glass on the offices were pulled to the inside. Glass fronts with sliding doors were put on the offices, and maximizing the amount of natural light that comes into those spaces, and not obstructing anybody else's natural light. And you can see that, although this is erratic at this point because we're still in the testing phase, but you can see the lights have gone out toward the southern end where the greatest amount of light is.
And there was total buy-in from everybody, again, with the integrated design team, between the users and the interior designers. I think one of the biggest tragedies at 410 Square is that Skadden Arps, is a law firm and took the top of the building, and it's all perimeter offices because that's what lawyers want, and that was the standard. And so, in 410 Square, you have a totally environmentally responsive building, but you have all these perimeter offices that deny all the daylight to the interior. And here, obviously, it was such a paramount importance to have this daylight, and we had total buy-in from every designer who came on board and from the ownership, that we were able to culturally, develop a culture where this type of officing could take effect.
This just gives you an idea of how that transparency works that Peter was talking about. It's just Renzo likes to talk about it as a bakery. It's like it goes all night long, and it's just going to glow, and it's going to be just a beautiful experience. And the Times, which is accustomed to being in a very closed environment, very historic building with very small, you basically have no sense of what's going on inside from outside. This will be very much the opposite.